I'm Alex Loeb in the Longhorn Network studios, and in honor of Jimmy V Week, I recently sat down with Texas women's basketball head coach Karen Aston, who for the very first time shared her family's battle against cancer. Coach, you're coming off one of your most successful seasons, one of the best seasons in program history, 31-5, trip to the Elite Eight, where really it should be one of the most joyous times of your professional career. But I know behind the scenes you've been dealing with a lot. Take me through over the last year what you've been going through in regards to your mother and what she's been battling.
Well, I'm obviously, connected very closely with my mom. It's a really special relationship because my father passed away when I was really young, and so most of my early childhood was spent with my mom and my sisters. So again, to preface this, the relationship is very, very special, as most daughters have with their mothers. I guess it was February or March, she started to have some symptoms of just some stomach problems and things, things that we didn't know right away what they were. And so they scheduled a surgery. It's not hard for me to forget, because the surgery was the day after our game in Waco at Baylor. And needless to say, that wasn't a good experience. And I actually left that game and went straight to Arkansas, and her surgery was the following morning. And they thought that they were dealing with some intestinal issues, and came out and told us that she had terminal pancreatic cancer. And it was quite a surprise for me because she didn't have, hindsight, I didn't know the symptoms, which is always, I think, once you start to deal with cancer in an immediate family member or anyone in general that's a loved one, you begin to have a better understanding of the disease. And for me, hindsight again, looking at her symptoms, that they all were symptoms of pancreatic cancer. So it was shocking. And I literally left Arkansas and went straight to the Big 12 tournament. So it was a bit of a stressful time, but you have family, and my family is here at Texas, and they were great. They lifted me, and were able to, we made it to the championship, and so even though that was weighing on me, it was easy to coach that bunch of kids last year.
What was the first thing when you heard the news that went through your mind?
It wasn't good. I'd like to consider myself a pretty strong individual and not a real emotional person or anything like that, but it was shocking. I just never in my wildest dreams, and I think that happens a lot now that I've talked to a lot of people that have dealt with cancer. I think that's the saying that you hear all the time is you never think it's going to happen to you is really true. And in that moment, the first thing I thought about is just that it wasn't going to be long at all. And because the symptoms and the size of the tumor and all of that told us that it was only going to be a few months. So that was the reality of, how do I...
The doctor said she only has a few months to live.
Right. He gave her 3 months. And, so immediately you just start to go, to that place where you're trying to process all of it. And it was very difficult. But she's strong. She's been through a lot in her life, and is my one and only role model from a parent perspective, as far as just strength and being able to get through things. And she immediately just was, as soon as she sort of got out of the dark of all of it, it was, how do I attack this?
I can't imagine having to handle that. Plus, on top of your professional duties, as a head coach at Texas, did you ever think of, at least temporarily, stepping down for a while to take care of this?
Well, I think the timing of it, at first it was difficult because we were in the middle of tournament play. So, as a matter of fact, the kids had a meeting, our staff and the players had a meeting with me at the Big 12 tournament after the first day and said, go home. Don't worry about us. We'll be fine. Just go home and deal with it. And, I knew that the way my mom is, she's a competitor and she loves basketball. She loves watching our team play, and I thought the right thing to do would be set an example for them and let them know that, you have to deal with your responsibilities. So the timing was bad in a sense of it was tournament play, but we had a week off after the Big 12 tournament that I actually left Oklahoma City after the championship drove back to Arkansas and spent almost a week while we had that break, and that was good for me to be able to spend a little bit of time with her and have conversation about all of it. And then we had the NCAA tournament. But again, timing is everything, I think, in life. And so after the NCAA tournament, that downtime allowed me to go back home and spend some real quality time with her. And, you know, at the time, that's where you have to make some difficult decisions. You know, I had a staff change in the middle of all that. We had some recruiting that we had to do in the spring, but that was the one decision that I sort of made for my family, which I kind of shoved the recruiting aside for a minute and said, okay, I've got to go deal with some family. And, you know, kids and families are really understanding about those types of things. I missed a couple of home visits that I could have had, but most people understand those circumstances.
How did your players react when you told them the news?
Well, I mean, they're terrific. The one thing about our players that I love is they're very family oriented, and we have a lot of players that are single parent kids, and their moms have raised them. So you have a lot of them that really understand the love that you have for a mother, and they were terrific. You know, they give me my space, and I think they understood not to ask every day how things were, but every now and then they would slip in a text or something and say, how's your mom doing? I had a couple of kids that actually wrote my mom a note, and you know, that was unsolicited and really just meant the world to her because she loves basketball. She is a baseball nut and a basketball nut, and I say all the time she could take Sean's job at the media relations because she studies stats all the time and she knows exactly what's going on in the baseball world and the basketball world. So for her to get a note from one of our kids was really special.
Still to come, we continue the conversation with Texas women's basketball coach Karen Aston on this Jimmy V Week special.